Hearing?
Are you not hearing us, Gretchen?
Anybody hear me?
Yes. How about
Yeah?
that? Can you hear us now?
I can't hear anybody. Nothing.
Take your earbuds out.
Really
Take your earbuds out and use the computer speakers.
Look here. Ah, this explains it. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. I can hear you. Let me turn you down even.
Welcome. Welcome to another Divine Comedy Simplicity. Simplicity. All the calls go like this, and for those of you who aren't here live, and please just fasten your seatbelt and enjoy the experience. Welcome. I'm gonna mute everybody. I'm gonna figure out how to do that. I know exactly how to do that. It's right here. And mute all. Sorry, I didn't have that ready. Okay. Welcome. It's my day to have another Simplicity with you and my guest, Nina Lockwood. I want to talk for just a few minutes about the why of this, which I'm finding is a deepening understanding as I do this. I was moved in the beginning of the year to with this idea of simplify your life. And just like pretty much everybody I know, I was kind of pointed back to the idea of decluttering, which has been a big part of my journey for the last 20 years or so, with Marie Kondo and that whole wave of decluttering and keeping only the things that spark joy. And when I heard that, after a while, I realized that that there's so much more there to look at, because it's not just things that spark joy. And actually things are not reliable indicators of what's joyful and what isn't, right? This mug, which I had made for me, I love it. I love it. I'm happy that I have it. Sometimes sometimes it's heavy to carry around. It holds like 18 ounces and my hands don't love carrying it. And sometimes it doesn't in and of itself spark joy. Even can annoy me when I think that was a indulgence that I really need to buy myself that mug. So the thing itself is just a thing. So what sparks joy? And who's in charge of how much joy you get to have? So simplify your life came out of that little first set of questions, and it has grown. This idea of simplicity can be little and granular and can be really, really big. I heard Michael Neal in a class this morning say something about the game is not learning how to be human. Instead, the game is how to be human and love your life. And that's really it. That's it. So it's huge. How do you love your life when things aren't going according to plan? How do you love your life when the unexpected happens? How do you love your life when the expected happens? How do you love your life when things go well? It's just everything. And I don't know the how. I don't have the answers. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm inviting you to come into this conversation with me, because I'm just learning how to see in a way that creates an opening that I don't see when I believe that something outside of myself is responsible for my happiness, state of well-being, peace of mind, and sense of wellness. So how does that apply to business? How does it not apply to business? I've been self-employed for a long time. And people say, why did you do that? And my flip answer has been, well, I was the world's worst employee. And that's really kind of true. I in my 40s, did not like somebody telling me when to eat lunch and for how long. I knew how to do my job, and I did not. I acted as if I had sovereignty, and it didn't go down very well. So I became my own employee and my own employer, and that has been quite a journey. And there are so many avenues to look at this with. So I'm gonna speak Nina into the conversation with us. I invited Nina to be my guest for this call today because I've been in a lot of conversations with Nina, listening to her and talking with her, and she's really grounded and is a woman in business who helps leaders. I was thinking about that word leadership, because in my own brand and marketing, I have marketed myself to individuals, not organizations, for a long time, and I don't talk much about leadership. But thinking about that, in that word used in your bio on your website, Nina, I realized that there's like we're leadership for ourselves, leadership for our community, leadership in our family, leadership in our work. This is it's just a really inviting quality to me now, and I think I used to not see it as something that I understood. So anyway, Nina, welcome, and join me. Let's talk a little bit.
Well, here we go. So thanks for inviting me on the conversation. And it's, I have to say that I never liked being told when I could eat and for how long. And that was way before I was actually in the work world. But it's interesting that you should focus on that word leadership, because I was just watching a TED Talk the other day by a woman Icelandic woman named Hala Thomasdottir, spelled almost phonetically as it sounds, and she ran for prime minister. She's also someone who developed an organization called B Team, but she said something that I thought was really important, and I'm going to read it to you. And it's the following quote: "Leadership is not only for those who sit in positions of power. There's a leader inside every one of us, and our most important work in life is to release that leader." And
that's exactly what I was seeing. I'm sorry. Yes, go on.
No, it's fine. It's not about only people who are able to currently call the shots or manipulate situations, but people who have an idea that they're enthusiastic about bringing into the world. And even if they're a coalition of one, if they have enthusiasm and commitment, and they're just lit up by their ideas, they can get other people on board. And there's a lot of power in that. So I think that the leadership is, it's because of the world we live in right now, which is gradually shifting from one which is competitive in nature to one that is more collaborative. That's really the ground in which leadership can flourish. And I think it's really important that we all know that this is our time to step up or step into, to really be able to flourish. And talking to your point about simplicity, you and I and some of the people on this call have been in an ongoing conversation about the role of our state of mind. And we all know that we do better if we have less on our mind, if we're not overthinking things as much as we often tend to be, that we can have a certain clarity and we can tap into that inner knowing, that gut sense of, yeah, this is the road to take, not that one. This one feels right. But if I'm up in my head all the time, I'm not going to be able to tap into that gut sense of what's the right next step for me.
Well, I think that I think that that's the key to the exploration, and I also see that it's, at least from my vantage point now, kind of endless, because I keep coming up against things that I've believed for so long that I really, I mean, that I just see them as something that is, that I forget, that I have lost the relationship to the thought that formed this belief, and all I see is the belief, like success and failure, right? There was that quote, I don't know if you were on the call earlier today, but somebody mentioned a quote by Rudyard Kipling. I have never garnered any wisdom from Kipling until today. Was, if you can meet success and failure and treat them both as imposters, then you are a balanced woman. I just changed man to woman in the quote. Then you are a balanced woman. Wow. If I look at my successes, I kind of like turn to them with this, like happy. And then I look at my failures and I pick up the bag of rocks and put it back on my shoulders. Do you know, is that too vague?
No, that makes a lot of sense. We all have associations with what we do, right? We all place certain kinds of meaning on things, and we're making that up. We're making up all the meaning, and all the meaning that we've accepted from other people about business or success. They're all just concepts. They're all just ways of talking about different states of being. But I think what's great about that poem, If, aptly entitled, once we can see that things in themselves are neutral, it can take some of the uncomfortableness out of being able to look at it straight in the eye. If we realize, oh, well, I made that up. I don't have to be scared about it. In fact, I can change my mind. You've probably had that situation happen.
Uncomfortableness is too mild. Way too mild. For me, it's just like it's just like I get smaller. There feels like there's a weight on my chest. It's really the way I feel like I can't presence myself when I'm not presenced because I'm all in this shit that I made up. It's disempowering, and I thought that my circumstances were what were disempowering me.
Yeah. Well, that's a really great point, because we live in an era, whether you call it a result of New Age thinking or different kinds of therapies and modalities that are out there, that we think that our feelings are an accurate indicator of what's going on, instead of an indication of the quality of our thinking. So in other words, I see something and I don't like it. The thing in itself is neutral, but my feeling is related to my thought in that moment. And 5 minutes later, I may have a different feeling about it. So if feelings are so arbitrary, it can't be the things in themselves. It can't be the business. It can't be the marketing. It can't be the networking, whatever is involved in our business. It's got to be us and our state of mind at the moment.
And
that makes sense?
Yes, and cart, horse, cart, because the state of mind also flavors the marketing, which has a direct effect, as a direct result. If the flavor of your marketing is needy, you're not going to get the result that's going to bring you what you thought you were going to be able to offer. I have direct experience of that. I've put a lot of energy into, I've invested thousands, I don't want to add it up, of dollars on teachers and courses and strategies and how to have $100,000 launch, have $1 million year, and and I would follow the formula, but my voice came through as, if there was neediness and desperation in the offer that I was putting out there, I got what I got. And even when I was completely neutral and sincere, formulas don't work. They can work, but they're a formula, and I don't know if I can articulate. It's kind of feeling like I need an external support system, right? I need an external set of rules or to follow, because I don't know how to navigate on my own, and I don't trust myself to have my own hand on the tiller.
Well, that's the hook, isn't it? It to all those different programs about, $100,000 launch or whatever the come on is. And in fact, this speaks to experience that I've had with hiring business coaches who had a very, very clear-cut set of formulas and set of rules. So they had it was a two-pronged approach. One was the strategy aspect of it, and the other was the mindset of it. And this person was very successful. Over a very short period of time, ended up having $1 million business, co-wrote a book with Jack Canfield, looked to walk the walk and talk the talk. And so what did I know? That I could use that. And in that program, it was, you couldn't deny that person had had the success they did, because it was clear that they did. But what I learned the hard way from it was that was based on her success, given her circumstances and her view of the world. And that is no guarantee that it's going to work for me or anybody else. You can get some benefit out of it. But what I learned, which I seem to learn in many different layers over my life, is that if I am not taking what I'm being shown and really checking in with myself, does this make sense? Is this really my voice? It's somebody else's experience that worked for them at that period of time, but it's no guarantee. And if I am listening to my own inner direction of what's right and what's not right for me, it's going to go a hell of a lot better than because I have a real time, in the moment navigational system. But all those formulas and all those strategies and techniques, they are not based on real-time responsiveness. They are based on the past.
That's exactly it, right? The pool of business coaches that I've hired and courses that I've taken have been this kind of heart-centered business community. And so one teacher who is a Sufi had his business enlightenment experience, and so he said, so this is the mindset. So if you do this and you use this kind of prayer or this kind of and it's like it's instead of seeing it, that was his journey, what's mine? And that's complicated by in my particular nutso experience is that I've been a glommer honor since a kid. I would copy the way you talked or your handwriting or your favorite color, because I didn't feel my own. I used to say I didn't think I had anything of my own, but I just didn't feel it. It was all there. I just didn't feel it. And somehow I didn't trust what came out of me. I felt safer if I was doing something somebody else approved of. So it was already, kind of my predilection as a kid. And then when I became a grown-up person in business, it's taken me a very, very, very long time to know my voice. And like I was telling you, I think before we started the recording, Nina, that I didn't tell you this. I've written over 800 blog posts. I started blogging like almost 10 years ago, maybe 10 years ago now, and started it as a gratitude thing. And I became more of a writer. And I've found my voice. I think that probably the first 400 posts were spewing angst more than anything. I don't go back and I don't want to know. But in the last 4 or 5 years, I've been developing a voice that has some richness and stuff in it. I know it. And yet, when I take that voice and turn it toward marketing, I stiffen up. I do. I stiffen up. My words stiffen up. I get more on it. So I'm just, now trying to expand. Maybe I'm daring myself a little bit to expand that voice that's more authentic and not so much caring about what you do with the information.
Right.
In my offers as well.
I'm just going to say, this is a side note, not related to what you just said, but there is something about Zoom calls and cats and dogs. And I have a cat, and she will appear at one point, or else she will want to leave the room. So if I get up, it's because I'm playing kitty doorman.
Okay, good. I had made up a story that you were going to go get a book and read it for a quote, but it's a cat thing. And that's right. That's fine.
Well, I like what you're saying because, I think the percentage of people that weren't encouraged at a young age to find their own voice, that the percentage of people who fall into that category is, almost non-existent. Very few people. It's how our culture is, how our religions are, how our schools are. It's always do what the expert says, follow the leader. It's not be your own leader. It's not trust yourself. That's coming up more now these days, but as kids, when we were younger anyway, that wasn't the game plan. It was, be polite, do your thing, follow the rules, be good. So very few people grew up with that sense of, I know what's right for me. Parents, it's a scary thing for a parent to allow a kid to have some leeway with. So it's normal. I was very much a chameleon when I was growing up because I wasn't clear in myself, and I wasn't encouraged to find that part of me that knew, that is part of what now I see as part of our hardwiring, that inner knowing, that GPS, whatever you want to call it, that gut sense. I was not encouraged to do that at all. And I always thought that if I tried to do that, I would get in trouble. I didn't realize until much later that when I did that, it was going to be the most liberating thing in the world. So in terms of our topic today about simplifying business, I think so much of that has to do with being willing to examine what we're even calling business, what we're even calling. Why are we making that an arbitrary distinction from living the rest of our life? Because we have certain associations.
I want to go there, but I also want to respond to what you just said about our scared parents. That was really beautiful. I scared the shit. I know I did. I started taking apart clocks and watches when I was a little girl, and that scared them because it was gender non-binary. I know it now, and it freaked them out, and they steered me to the stove or the mop or something, and that was just the beginning of it. And you're right, that chameleon thing. So I just wanted to once again honor my parents for doing the very best they could with all that they wanted to. They didn't want to appear different. That they didn't want to appear different. That they didn't observe Judaism, but they made sure to park around the corner from the synagogue if they were going to go meet their parents at shul, so that nobody would see them driving up. And that they told us never let anyone see you eat on Yom Kippur. So, thank you. So yes, let's
Well, you're pointing out something that is true for all of us in our own quirky ways, is that we're going to act in accordance with whatever we believe is true, which is what they did. Our parents weren't trying to subject us to mean, nasty things, unless sometimes they were. But, most of the time people are trying to protect us and keep us safe. And thank God we're in an era now where that's starting to not be the narrative anymore. To be able to take risks, to question your assumptions, to be in the spotlight, although that has its far end of the spectrum as well. But now I think there is more of an opportunity to really say, hey, wait a minute, what is this really all about? Is this really about safety? Is this really about self-expression? Is this about authenticity? Is it about diversity? Is it about including many ideas in a collaborative effort? Or is it keeping safe, following the rules, having a strategy? Because I don't understand the value of really understanding what's going on. I just want the quick fix.
So you said this now twice, that you feel that there's a shift from competitive toward collaborative, and I'm curious where you're seeing that. Because I think I know where you're seeing that, but I also see so much of that old stuff happening right now, that I wondered if you wanted to say more about that, and then also to shift into talking about what business really is, because that's kind of juicy.
Okay. For me, it comes down to where you place your attention in terms of what you're looking at, right? Like if I was going to read the paper every morning, which I don't do, and I could put myself in line of fire of all the bad news that is out there. But there's other things going on out there. And I think when you look at the nature of work, the nature of the workplace, how things are changing in terms of speed of information, artificial intelligence, the jobs that are in place now are not going to be there in 10 years. Everything is changing. Everything is changing enormously. And one of the biggest challenges that corporations talk about is being able to adjust to this rapidly changing world, that the only way they're really going to excel and be successful is to collaborate, is to finally realize that I am not the sole arbiter of what's right and wrong and what will work and won't. But the more I'm willing to collaborate with other thinkers, two heads are better than one. So there is a growing need that is recognized and is slowly trickling down into the way business works, and people, and you see this also reflected in wellness models, where and also in the diversity and the nature of diversity and women and gender, is that it's finally beginning to be recognized that all of these different points of view are important and are valuable and are going to contribute more than if we just have one person saying, I'm the expert, I have all the answers. It's a changing world, and I think that sense of, okay, then, you know, we can't afford to keep our doors closed anymore. It's really important that we include other people who have skills and talents and abilities, which again goes back to why it's so important for people to understand that leadership is not just for people that have a title. Leadership is for anybody who has an idea.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And
there's this growing movement in the leadership world that's referred to as conscious leaders, conscious leadership. So that if people are going, people who are interested in their own, if you will, evolution, their self-awareness, their self-growth, they are taking that into the workplace, so that they're aligning with their own values and they're making those values available to the people around them. So every time they take a step up in their awareness, they're able to share that with other people. So they're taking the people with them, and they look at their business, they look at what they do as not only the money-making monster that we've been talking about recently, but it's a way for everybody to benefit. So not just the shareholders, but the stakeholders, everybody that gets touched by that business. So you've got to start thinking, well, what are my values? What's important to me? What do I see as valuable to share with other people?
Well, that's a point of view I have not heard about organizations lately, and and I think maybe it's a pointer to me of where I'm getting my news, because my eyes are on the exclusionary and the heartbreaking more these days, and so that's something that I might want to expand.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, it's out there. Once you start looking, you'll start seeing that it's in many, 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 many different emerging places, emerging voices, emerging contexts where people are saying, okay, what do we got? It's not just what have I got.
Well, I'm seeing it in the queer community. I think it's much bigger than that. I'm seeing it in diversity everywhere. I live in a small town, and it's a very white town. And I've lived here over 2 years now, and I'm starting to slowly see a little bit more diversity around me, and more intentional diversity in kind of it's getting more woke even here, which is hopeful.
Yeah.
When I moved here, it was very confusing. So
you're not in Brooklyn anymore.
I'm not. Well, it was Brooklyn to Oakland, and I'm not in Oakland anymore either, by a long shot. So yeah, I'm in agricultural Sonoma County now. I'm a small town girl. Wow. So welcome, Terry. Hi, Gretchen. I'm gonna or you can unmute yourselves and join us for the rest of the talk if you like, and pop in anytime.
Oh, there she is. Hey, Terry.
We've been talking about leadership. Oh, and that last thing you said about leaders. I'm really going inside with this idea, Anina, of it's how I presence myself. It's about choosing to stand up, just to be in the moment, and that is that lets go kind of victim of whatever might be victimizing me and holding me down. It just kind of melts away. And that's huge, I think.
Well, we sure put a lot of unnecessary meaning on what happens to us, right? This
Yeah,
is good. This is bad. This is the end of my life as I now know it. This is great. This is not. You know, we're always judging and assuming that if this happens, then that happens. But are we really victims? If we're really victims, are we really victims to what's outside of us, or more to the way we think about things?
My first coach I ever had used to say we're addicted to being adrenalized, you know, like to being, and I think that that heart stopping. Oh my! It's like, oh, I'm here. I am in an ambulance on the way to the hospital because my blood pressure is through the roof. What the fuck just happened? And how terrified am I going to get right now in this moment?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how or why, but I didn't go there. I didn't. I just got curious. I just got curious, mm-hmm. But I know that other things like stubbing my toe or you know, or having a flat or needing a big car repair is just like I see catastrophe. I see, you know, I see a catastrophic outcome, and then I have to reel myself back into the moment. And that's habit. That's kind of like I don't know. It's a habitual response, and finding out what it's like to have a calm response to unsettling or uncomfortable things is a whole new learning. It's like shedding an entire way of being.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can I make a comment on the term victim?
Yes.
You know, I think things happen out there to people, you know, and yeah. I look at my own family, which was violent, and it was crazy. And a lot of us in the family have moved beyond that trauma and drama, and one sister has not. It's like the tigers were chasing her as a kid, and she's 65 and the same tigers are still chasing her. And it's not to say that, and I know you didn't say this, Nina, that things didn't really happen to people. Some terrible things happen to people. They really are. And how long do I want to carry the upset around with me? Sometimes I think about things. I recently had a sister who got upset with me and was yelling and screaming at me. And I was curious about how it made sense to her. And there might be some time where I talk to her about it, and there might not be. I don't know. I'll know when I get there. I finally come to, I don't have to do anything about it.
Yeah.
And she may yell at me again, because that's what she tends to do with people for some reason. And, but I don't have to carry an upset around with me for years and years and years. And I have done that. But why? Also, one other thing, when you were talking about the change you're talking about leadership, and you're sensing a new sort of, I'm not sure what the word is, in business where there's cooperation. And I'm reading a book right now called The Master and His Emissary by Ian McGilchrist. And it's about the right-left hemisphere of the brain and the science of all of that. And it is fascinating. And I've just started it, so it's pointing in the direction of consciousness. and what we need in this world. And what we have right now, especially in the Western Hemisphere, is what he's talking about is the left brain response to everything. And we've lost the compassion of the right brain. And that we need to find that balance again.
Mm-hmm.
And you're seeing it in business, Nina. And I've read things where other people have said there's this thread. Way back, there was a book called The Cultural Creatives, and they were talking about that. You know, people here and people there who are waking up. And when you get a large enough mass, then there then there can be a bigger awakening, and it will happen naturally. If people don't get discouraged, I think anyway.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm not going into business for myself. So it's interesting. I'm on the same call with Michael, and I signed up because it fit my budget. And I like just listening because I keep learning, and I just appreciate it so much. But yeah, go into business for myself, that doesn't pull me at this point in my exploration, this journey. Doesn't pull me. So,
do you sell your art, Gretchen?
Once in a while. I have a friend who wants me to do a special art piece for her. And she's going to pay me. But, you know, I don't put energy into it. I mean, I keep doing it. I'm not doing as much art in the last, since George got sick and died. I do some because I'm involved in a couple of art groups where I have to produce a piece, three pieces for each group in a 4-month period. So that keeps me doing something. And then I take my drawing tablet with me when I go visit family, and I talk and draw. I doodle. You know, you put a pen in my hand and it just moves around the paper.
So, Nina, I don't know, half an hour ago you said something about, well, what business might really be. And it's been teasing around the corners of my mind for the last half hour. And this voice came up that said, it's what you do. It's what you're about. That's what your business is. So I don't know if that's where you were going at all, but it was teasing at me. So what were you thinking when you said that?
Well, if business is about what you do, what about when you're making a sandwich? Is that business?
Life, business.
It is what I am busy with in the moment. If we look at the word, right? Business is what you're busy is. I'm sure it has something to do with busyness. I've never looked it up, but I have a feeling what are you doing when you're making a sandwich?
Making a sandwich.
Well, if we're enlightened, we're making a sandwich. If we're not enlightened, we're making a sandwich. We're thinking about what needs to be done. Is there laundry in the dryer? You know, all the other things that are going on. You know,
how beautifully we're plating it, and and the loveliness of the ingredients. Or why didn't I stop?
Or not?
Or why didn't I stop and get the roast beef? Yes, and yeah.
Well, I think what I'm hearing in our discussion is that we made it up. We made up the definitions of what business is, and we all have a slightly different definition of it. And for most of us, it's got some scary bits to it. Because then we start thinking, if it looks a certain way, then it's a reflect. If it isn't going the way we want to, then most of us think that is a reflection on our well-being, or who we are, or our self-worth. And if it's going great, we think the same thing. But we keep forgetting that we've made up all the parameters of what business is. Even if there is an actual brick and mortar place where we're selling something or we're selling a service, we've still made up what it all means. there's the, as you were saying, Gretchen, there's the actual fact of it. And then there's all this meaning that we attach to the so-called facts.
Yeah.
So it's very arbitrary. And I keep going back to that idea that the less we keep doing that, we assigning meaning, and the more we keep following what interests us or what excites us about the business, whatever that is, that we do better. I'm interested in what Terry has to say. She'll unmute herself.
I feel a little disconnected from this conversation since I jumped in half time. I'm not really sure where it started, or
Neither are we.
okay.
It's been a, as Christy Halverson would say, it's been quite a cottywomple. And, you know, we've been meandering purposefully toward an unknown destination.
So with that, I just came off of Michael Neal's Financial Freedom from the Inside Out, I think it's called. Were you on there, Gretchen?
No, I missed it today.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to go back and listen.
Yeah. One of the things that I've been getting out of that it's actually a self-study program, and then they have a couple calls, is I noticed there was one video where Steve was talking primarily, but Michael jumped in, where he was talking about a fundraising person that he was coaching with, and the person was making money for a cancer research institute in Arizona, and they became one of the best fundraisers. And what they attributed that to was that they gave back to their donors infinitely more than the donors gave, in the recognition or showing the donors what a contribution they were making. That where their money is going and how big a difference it's making in the hospital and the doctors and everything. And that just really struck me as what a wonderful thing to offer people, is a mirror on how much difference they're making in the world with simply being who they are.
Yeah.
Whether it's in business, in art, in sharing, there's something in there just, I thought, oh, this is huge. For me, that's huge, because so much of my quote unquote suffering in life has been around not having a purpose, or, what's the point of it? Or, does it really matter if I'm here or not? Just really negative, crazy thinking. And to have somebody step into your life and say, we're all making a difference. But the very fact that we're here and we're contributing and we're alive, and and to be able to show people that, just such an awesome. So it's new. That whole idea is new for me. I love to, in my quote unquote business, be encouraging to people, particularly visual artists, but anybody, and to bring this even more depth to it with that understanding is really interesting, and something I'm really curious about and want to play with.
Well, I think, haven't you been standing in that you call yourself an encourager, right?
Creative encourager.
Yes. And I love that about you. I mean, I think that you inhabit that a lot too, which is really wonderful. Thanks for reflecting that. And it's sometimes in the last few years, I get really curious about what business is. For me, I haven't brought in revenue the amount I spend in my life. I haven't met expenses in my business for some years now. And so I have had many people, like accountants and other financial types, say, why do you do this? Like, why do why bother? And when I said that before about business is what I do, I really think there's kind of just the phrase divine neutrality has been coming up in these conversations of knowing that the processes and sensations that are happening in my life, in my business, in my work, in my health, in my body, in the world are not the boss of my state of my well-being and my sense of being okay. They're not. And that means that the more I bring myself to the sandwich and the way I'm making my bed in the morning and the way I lay out the pleasure I take in laying out my clothes at night to know that what I can wear the next day that I like, and the presence I try and bring to these conversations, and the willingness to sit in front of a canvas and try one more time to make what I see in my mind look like something. And, there's something kind of amazing that happens when there can be a fullness and the same fullness to every single part of that. Yeah. That's my busyness. What am I busy with?
There's something really amazing about presence itself, being present in this conversation, being present making a sandwich, playing with your business, doing a painting, is a huge contribution to life. That is such a beautiful, gentle, and profound thing we're doing in life that makes a difference to everything.
Yes. And then all the stuff that comes along for the ride, like who's paying attention and who's caring and who's showing up and who's wanting to put, I haven't named it, but coincidentally, I'm taking a course called A Whole New Way of Thinking About Business while I'm doing these calls. And so I'm getting like a chance to have I'm getting these ahas daily. And yesterday, I think it was Monday, Michael Neal said, business is life, selling life to life. I'm still working on that one. Business is life, selling life to life. Okay. And I'm just sitting with that one. Because I'm tenderly, gently thinking about offering some kind of thing that might have a price tag. And it's like, okay, business is life, selling life to life. Still don't know how you put a price on something, but
You make it up.
I make it up, playing with it, Terry, playing with it. Playing with my business. It's the same thing I said before. I'm learning to turn to my paintbrush without so much tension. I'm learning, I actually am, but I still turn to marketing and I forget that playing is even an option. It becomes, I'm still kind of looking for the rules and the rigidity, Nina. I'd like to let go of that now because it doesn't serve, it doesn't work. It doesn't get me any of what I want.
I love to be. Go ahead, Gretchen. Well, I was just going to say the phrase selling life to life. It's like, I am life and I'm selling life to life.
Business is life.
And
selling life to life.
I was thinking about conversations I've had with one of my nephews over a period of, say, 3 months. And, just talking to him, he's a veteran and flew helicopters in Afghanistan and all that. And we just had some conversations. And then I went up to see his brother, and the other nephew's wife was there. And she came up to me and she says, I don't know what you said to him, but he's a changed man. He's so different. Our relationship was through. She says, no. And he's so different with the kids. And I don't know what I said to him, but it's like selling life to life, because he is life. And he is experiencing life now in such a different way. And I'm so grateful that I got to be a part of whatever it was that happened, so that he gets to experience his true self and the fullness of who he is, and this beautiful, beautiful, wonderful man. And his kids get to experience him as a loving dad, and so does his wife, even if they don't stay married. You know, their relationship will never be what it used to be. And that I got to be a part of that is the most wonderful gift that I could ever think of having. So it's life selling life. I am life. I am life. Wow. I love that phrase.
Did you want to say something, Nina?
Well, that story is very touching, and it makes me think about the fact that if someone is open to seeing something different about their life, everything can change.
Yeah.
If someone is willing to say, whatever it is I'm thinking may not be the absolute truth, there is an opening for a new thought, a new possibility, a new way of doing business, a new way of relating to our friends and family and to life itself. That we have that in us. That's kind of built. That's the part of the hardwiring. You know, that as much of the crazy stuff that goes on in our head, there's the deeper we dive. So anything is possible.
You guys, I can tell you this now. This is amazing. I can tell you this now because I won't be posting this video until after it happens. But I've been walking beside my brother-in-law, whose mother, who is 96 now, decided to end her life in last January at the New Year, and is doing so on Saturday in my sister and brother-in-law's home. Legally, with the doctor present and using California's whatever law, because she wants to go while she's still, before she can't. She doesn't want to decline anymore. She's done. And my brother-in-law and my sister are massively changed by this experience, and I've been walking with them through it. And wow, it's been amazing to see him take on the role of walking at his mother's side through this, and facilitating the parade, the farewell tour of nephews and nieces and cousins who each came and spent time with her, and recording the meetings and keeping all the conversations and being the scribe, and doing this thing that you'd probably never consider would happen in life. I mean, it's becoming now part of the conversation. Talk about changing the culture. Nina, I now know 3 sets of people that have done this in the last year or 2. But thanks, Terry. It's been really amazing to see this become his business over the last 6 months.
Yeah.
And to be in that with them. So, thanks.
Business is just a focus. It's just another focus.
So I love that, because it takes it opens the door to neutrality and playing with it. I love that. I love having Terry in my life regularly reminding me that it can be playful, because I don't get that by nature. Anyway, it's an hour, right? Yeah, we've been here for an hour, and I'll stop the recording with gratitude, and